Welcome back. It's episode 3. It's going to be a short one. As I mentioned in my last episode, I wanted to think of something to do with the boneyard here. We got the neck, the breastbone, we got random chicken leg pieces and wingtips, and it's got a lot of seasoning on it. A mixture of the shawarma rub and that coffee brown sugar cumin garlic rub on the chicken. And we're just gonna experiment and see what happens if we turn it into a stock. I now have a vision for some of the stock, and I'm gonna use it in a barbecue sauce, I think. That'll come maybe later in this video. But in terms of like aromatics or whatever else we're adding we're gonna keep it super simple. So just a little celery, a little bit of onion, a little bit of garlic, and a bay leaf. I'm not gonna salt it or add any more pepper to it either. Normally I'll throw some peppercorns in. I'm out of peppercorns right now. And I think there's enough salt on the outside of this that it'll impart some saltiness to the stock. So all I'm gonna do first, I'm just gonna throw some celery, some carrot. Recess, you want a carrot? A little carrot tax. Onion. And yeah, I'll just throw the garlic cloves in. Give it a little stir. Sometimes I make stock and I saute everything a little bit. Other times I'll just throw it straight into the water, but I don't know, for good luck, I figured I'd add just a touch of oil and get these guys warmed up. From there, we'll drop the boneyard into here, cover it with water, and I'll give it a simmer for probably about 2.5 hours. All right, so all of this is part of the vision. We have over here, it's been simmering for about an hour and a half. I got a cast iron pan that's all warm, ready to go. And these ingredients are going to go into a barbecue sauce. I'm not really following any recipe here. A couple weeks ago I made pozole for the first time, which came out really good and was pretty simple. You just kind of cook pork and make a nice pork broth. But at the end, you make a salsa out of dried chilies. And we used, I think, puya chilies, 20 grams of puya chilies for the pozole, and 200 grams of guajillo chilies. And it made a ton of this pepper paste after we, processed the dried chilies. And we didn't end up using any of it, so I took some of it and ended up using it to marinate some tofu for dinner. And I was really impressed by the flavor of just those chilies with a little bit of water, or I think we used rehydrated them in chicken broth and added a little bit of garlic and onion. But it came out good, and it reminded me of barbecue sauce. So I want to try something similar today, using the stock, using these chilies. And this time I went to the grocery store, I went to King Soopers, and they had a pretty weak selection of dried chilies. These were some of the only dried chilies they had. Chile de Arbol, that's gonna give us some heat. I have 5 grams of chile de Arbol. And then chile de ristra, mild. I don't know what kind of chili this is. I Googled it, and ristra refers to when you see the strung chilies that are hung up for decoration or to kind of keep them dry, over the winter. But I don't know what type of chili they actually are. So it's a mystery type of chili, and then chile de Arbol. And I'm gonna toast those. I've already seeded them. I'm going to toast them, rehydrate them in the stock, blend them up with some of the stock, and then add fire roasted diced tomato with some garlic. I'm gonna add apple cider vinegar. I'm gonna add brown sugar. So I have about 2-3 tablespoons of brown sugar. I'm gonna do the whole can of tomatoes, and then probably a 1/4 cup of this seasoning sauce, which is very similar to soy sauce, but with like some MSG or something like that. I don't know, I'm just out of soy sauce right now, so I'm gonna use this. And all of that is gonna come together, and then I think I'm gonna run it through a fine mesh strainer so that it's nice and smooth. And then we'll play around with like maybe adding any more of these, but I'm just gonna go with a splash and I'll kind of show you what that looks like once I get these peppers soaked and tender. Okay, so I've toasted the chilies for a few minutes and they're fragrant, sort of pepper gassed myself a little bit with the Arbol. But before they get any hotter or start to burn, I'm gonna ladle in some of our broth. All right. As you can see, that's already up to a heavy simmer boil. Turn down the heat a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna let these simmer in our stock for, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. Let them get nice and soft. Let them mingle with the flavors of our chicken turkey Boneyard stock. And once those are all soft and simmered, I'll take you over to the next step. 10 minutes later, chilies are softened. Brittany and I are coughing because it basically pepper sprayed the whole house. So we'll see how spicy it is. I think it's gonna be pretty spicy. I just transferred what was in the cast iron into here. So it's probably half liquid, half chilies. And we're gonna put all of that into this food processor. Also gonna put, and I drained off, since I want sort of that stock to come through, I drained off the tomato can, but we're gonna put tomatoes in there as well. We're really putting this mini food processor to capacity. Then I have apple cider vinegar. I'm gonna do, I don't know, 2 tablespoons. And then the seasoning sauce. Do like 1 tablespoon to start. Brown sugar I'm gonna put in, I'll put it in now. I don't know. I'll put in the brown sugar when I simmer it in a saucepan because I think I'm gonna have to thicken it up. But I think we're ready to run this. Again, definitely testing the capacity of the food processor, so let's hope it doesn't explode. All right, let's see. Nice. It looks all like it's all together. Upon first taste, it definitely needs sugar. It's a little bitter, but not too spicy. And it has that slight tomato-based barbecue sauce vibe. So I'm thinking with some brown sugar, maybe a little bit of ketchup. We're gonna try and make it come together in the saucepan. And then we'll decide whether or not I wanna strain it or not. I might kind of want the chunky texture. Okay, after pouring that into the saucepan and looking at it some more, it doesn't look like sauce. It just kind of looks like chunky slop. I might run it through the food processor one more time, and then I'm definitely gonna run it through the fine mesh strainer so we can get it smooth before we start simmering it. And after several minutes of running this pepper paste through the strainer, definitely glad I did that because it has a lot of weird, you know, papery pepper pieces. This looks much more like a sauce. It's pretty, still pretty soupy, so I want it to thicken up a little bit. I'm gonna throw it on the heat. And we're gonna bring that up to a simmer. Add some brown sugar. I have a feeling this might take a little more than 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Oops. And then we'll start tasting. I'm done tweaking with it. It's good. It's spicy. I think it's gonna taste better when it cools. I'm a little like palate fatigued from tasting it so many times. And it's hot. I don't know, hot barbecue sauce, like, I think it's gonna be a little better if it cools down or even cold. But I added more ketchup, probably close to half a cup of ketchup, maybe a third of a cup of ketchup. I added another splash of apple cider vinegar. And then I swirled in 1 more tablespoon of brown sugar. So it's still got that heat. It's got everything. It's a little bitter, a little acidic, but sweet, tangy, and plenty of smoky heat with a little echo, I'd say, of meatiness from the chicken stock, turkey stock. So we're gonna let this thing cool now that it's the consistency I want it. And we'll try it with some chicken and maybe even marinate some tofu with it. Okay, the sauce is made. Most of it's cooling in the fridge, but I'm gonna use some of this in Brittany's dinner. Brittany is vegetarian, kind of pescatarian. So we eat a decent bit of tofu. And the tofu has been cooking in oil, a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of chili powder, and Worcestershire sauce. And now I'm gonna add a can of chopped chickpeas. And I really like this combination of tofu and chopped chickpeas. I buy the firm tofu. I go back and forth between extra firm and regular firm. I like them both, but I like the way that firm, if you cube it, will fall apart a little bit. So you'll get like little pieces of tofu, but then a lot of the cubes will just maintain their shape. So like corners will break off, but you get like this nice mix of little tofu pieces, big tofu pieces. And then the chickpeas just add a nice, well, protein obviously, but then a textural component that makes it almost meaty. So I'm gonna let this I want the chickpeas to soften up a little bit. Tofu to kind of just hang out there. And then I'm gonna scrape out this barbecue sauce into here so that we get a barbecue vegetarian option. Okay, I just added the barbecue sauce, what was left in that saucepan. Just gonna stir to incorporate that. All right. It's looking good. Okay, so we're gonna do pita sandwiches again. I just wanted to show you one of my favorite things to do with cucumbers. I have this little zester tool that I got at a restaurant supply shop a couple years ago. And I love doing it to eggplant, and I love doing it to cucumber. Just giving it some racing stripes so it kind of looks cool and takes a little bit of that tougher skin off while keeping most of it still intact. Okay, we're about to start plating the pita. So we got some cucumber slices, got some pickled red onion. I'm gonna heat this leftover smoked chicken up. And then I wanted to show you how much the barbecue sauce yielded. So we got, what is that, 300 milliliters 2 cups, cup and a half. So not a whole lot of sauce. And then we got about 5 cups worth of our Boneyard broth. I came up with a fun name for it, Boneyard broth, since we used that whole mess of bones and threw it in. Let's give it a little taste. Oh wow. That was totally worth doing. I mean, it tastes like all the other chicken stocks I make, except then it still has that subtle smoke and spice from you know, what was still on the chicken and turkey carcasses. Quite pleased with that. I'll probably skim some of the fat off once it rises to the top. But as you can see, it still has some of that rub that came off into it. Not overpowering whatsoever, but pretty true to the original flavors that were imparted onto the bird. Let's taste this barbecue sauce too. I let it cool down in the fridge a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like somebody took barbecue sauce and then added like a salsa to it, like a dried chili salsa. I think it's gonna be good with a little bit on the chicken. It's pretty powerful. I wouldn't make it again with those types of chilies because it's not exact. I would like more smokiness rather than the heat and sort of bitterness. But overall, it's good. I will use all of that sauce. Let's try a little piece of chicken with it. So you got a good consistency. Cold chicken dipped in warm barbecue sauce. Now that goes well together. So pretty happy with the sauce. I'll put the amounts I used for ingredients in the description below. Now let's get assembling on these pitas.